Werewolf Businessmen in 2023. Dear Scary Stories, I always knew business was a ruthless battleground, a field where only the strongest and most cunning could survive. Little did I know that the cutthroat nature of my industry would pale in comparison to the unexpected pressure that I would encounter outside the boardroom. It seemed as though fate had a twisted sense of humor, pushing me down a path I never anticipated, becoming a werewolf. It all began at an exasperatingly ordinary business conference, where colleagues exchanged pleasantries, indulged in small talk, and competed for lucrative contracts. Everything seemed familiar until whispers about a particular trend started circulating among the networking crowd. At first I dismissed them as nothing more than idle gossip, born out of boredom and a desperate desire for individuality in a field that thrived on conformity. But as days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, those whispers grew louder, even more insistent. Friends, acquaintances, and competitors alike were adopting this eerie transformation, claiming that it gave their companies an edge, enhancing their abilities, amplifying their senses, and revolutionizing their approach to business. The notion of becoming a werewolf for professional pursuits became a highly sought-after secret society, an exclusive club that promised prosperity and power. Despite my skepticism, the pressure to conform grew exponentially. It seemed that everyone around me was succumbing to the allure of the paranormal, their once human bodies transforming under the illuminated moon. Colleagues I had once respected, individuals I had deemed rational, were now swapping their tailored suits for tattered shorts, their polished shoes for their own barefoot clawed feet. Each day, the pressure mounted more and more on me, creeping like a determined shadow that refused to be ignored. Subtle suggestions transformed into relentless demands, disguised as harmless reminders that associating with wolves would forge a stronger relationship with potential clients. My objections fell on deaf ears. Those who had already embraced their lupine selves had become fierce evangelists, preaching their newfound power, success, and dominance. Reluctantly, I decided to succumb to the coercion, driven by fear of losing my competitive edge, rather than any true belief in the paranormal. The night of my transformation approached, with a mix of trepidation and anticipation. Would this metamorphosis truly unleash a latent potential within me, or was I simply allowing myself to be seduced by an absurd trend, obfuscating the realities of business acumen? As the full moon loomed large in the night sky, a sense of inevitability settled upon me. I found myself in a secluded clearing, surrounded by those who had undergone the transformation before me. The air crackled with anticipation, the scent of nervous sweat mingling with an undercurrent of excitement. The leader of our group made an impassioned speech, which seemed to be directed partially into the ground, with the rest shouted at the sky above. I understood most of the words he was speaking, but I failed to comprehend the meaning of what he was saying. I was wondering if he was even making any sense at all, when I suddenly saw each and every one of the people in the circle around me begin to change. None of us were wearing clothing, so I could see with my own eyes that their bodies were becoming different, and I could hear their wails and moans of extreme pain, but also a kind of transcendent bliss at the same time. Like a pain they had all grown to associate with positive things. Like the way my mother explained her smoking habit to me. It made her cough and get sick the first time she tried it. But now, why now she'd mastered it, and it had become the most pleasurable thing in her day. This was like that. I could hear their bones popping, and some of the younger ones did scream in utter torment when that would happen. The more experienced werewolves, though, the ones who had been transforming longer, why, they seemed to enjoy the pain. No, they seemed to luxuriate in it, to revel in it, to roll in ecstasy inside the pain. I found this all very off-putting, and I wanted to run. I was surrounded by mutating post-humans, though, and so I held perfectly still, observing the pure horror in every direction. When the dust started to settle, and in this case I mean the term in a literal way, I found myself looking at a bunch of hairy, former people with dog ears of various types, dog noses of various lengths and colors, and really scary fangs and claws. The claws looked natural on Susie from accounting. She always had the longest nails in the company. But the rest of them? Man, they looked like they were going to slice themselves up accidentally, more than they were going to harm any other living creature in those woods. And then, it happened to me. Bones shifted, muscles twisted, and fur sprouted from every pore. The pain was indescribable, as if my very being rebelled against this unnatural transformation. I struggled to cling onto my reason, fighting against my own despair that whispered to me, asking me, "What have you done?" It's been months since that fateful night, and my life has been irrevocably changed. I am now a businessman by day, and a werewolf after that, navigating a professional landscape interwoven with rituals, furry alliances, and an unspoken code of supernatural ethics. The same aggression that once drove my success has taken on a literal form, and my heightened senses now prey upon opportunities that might have remained hidden before. But deep within, I question whether this trend truly signifies strength, or if it reflects an alarming erosion of human values. In a world marked by ambition and fierce competition, have we become so desperate for an edge that we're now willing to redefine our very nature? Though the allure of power still beckons, I bear the burden of knowing that the wolfen persona I now embody may be a reflection of our collective fears, desires, and moral compromises. Perhaps one day I will summon the courage to break free from this trend and reclaim the humanity I feel slipping away with every rising moon. Until then, though, I am an unwilling participant in this growing phenomenon, an unorthodox businessman searching for purpose amidst the shadows of our predatory world. My ex-wife and I have become friends again recently because she is experiencing similar troubles at her job. She wrote this next part for me to send to you anonymously. This is in the words of my ex-wife. I never thought my marketing career would lead me down such a bizarre path. As a woman working for a company that I'd rather not name, I've always prided myself on being well-versed in the latest industry trends, using innovative strategies to promote our products. But lately I found myself caught up in a twisted phenomenon that I never could have predicted. The alarming trend of being pressured into becoming a werewolf. It all started innocently enough. Our company had been struggling with marketing campaigns that lacked a certain edge, failing to captivate the ever-changing consumer base. Sensing desperation in the air, our upper management began brainstorming unconventional ways to garner attention. And that's when we stumbled upon the supernatural. Suddenly, werewolves became the talk of our office. The initial idea was to tap into their mystique, their raw power and allure, and use it to amplify our brand image. I mean, at first, it seemed like a whimsical notion, something to inject a little excitement into our daily grind. But as time went on, it became clear that management's fascination with werewolves was more than just a passing trend. It was a twisted obsession, an obsession that trickled down to all of us. The pressure to conform was insidious. Co-workers began whispering about secret moonlit gatherings, murmuring subtly about the increased effectiveness of their marketing pitches once they had joined the pack. They told me about how their senses had sharpened, how their heightened instincts granted them an unparalleled understanding of consumer behavior. And if I'm being honest, it did pique my curiosity. But I refused to give in to the pressure. I believed there had to be other ways to excel in marketing without resorting to lycanthropy. I sought solace in my creativity, trying to devise compelling campaigns rooted in imagination rather than transformations under a full moon. Yet with each passing day, I found myself feeling more and more like an outsider, an outcast in a world being consumed by werewolf mania. Eventually, the relentless persistence of my colleagues wore me down. Believing it was the only way to succeed in this increasingly bizarre landscape, I reluctantly agreed to undergo the transformation. It was a decision fueled by desperation and the fear of being left behind. A decision I would come to rue. The process was excruciating, both physically and emotionally. The moon called to me, and as the curse took hold, I found myself grappling with an insatiable hunger that could only be satiated by the wild hunt. I questioned whether I had sold my soul to a corporate-driven nightmare, sacrificing my humanity for the sake of marketing prowess. The more I delved into my new werewolf existence, the more apparent it became that I was not alone. Others, caught in the same web of expectations and irrational desires, had succumbed to the allure of this growing trend. The office transformed into a makeshift pack, driven by competitive instincts, and a collective belief that our newfound gifts would lead to success. But there I found myself, standing at the precipice of self-reflection and realization. This trend, this twisted fascination with becoming a werewolf, it is not the path to true success. It is a trap, a cycle of conformity that erases one's uniqueness and humanity. As I set out to break free from this suffocating cycle, I come to understand that real passion and creativity in marketing lie within ourselves, not in the supernatural. I refused to let this experience define me, vowing to once again champion innovative ideas that resonated with consumers without losing sight of my own identity. So I sent out feelers to see who might be interested in working with me if I started my own new firm. At first, I got a number of interested responses, but when they learned that I was going to be trying my best to undo the werewolf curse and attempt to return to being a normal human, then it was like a wall went up between me and all my best contacts. I haven't even found a way to quit being a werewolf. I've only heard rumors about how to do it. But just because I talked about wanting to try to run my new firm by employing regular non-werewolf people, just that was enough to get me cut off from the entire pack. I was fired from my job, and I spent almost half a year out of work. I eventually had to take an assistant job when I have 10 years experience as a manager. My boss has me do all the work, and she takes all the credit. I can't ever be promoted here. It's a dead-end job, and yet nobody else is interested in hiring me at all. So now, not only am I still a werewolf, but I'm a broke one who had to sell her car and move to a cheaper apartment where my new super hits on me and won't do repairs unless I smile and ask nicely. And even so, at night, I have to get myself to the woods, and I have to run and hunt and kill and eat. But I no longer am allowed to run with the pack. I'm a lone wolf now, not really making it in either world any longer. I've gone from wanting to break free from this curse to hoping that the werewolves will forgive me and allow me a second chance. I am willing to take the low pay and long hours, but if I can't return to human form, then I need to be accepted by the pack. I find my individuality increasingly burdensome, and yet by living the solo life, I have no choice but to make my own decisions. I pray to either be able to become myself again, or else to fully accept my new form. Living in my current limbo is the ultimate torment. And that's how my ex-wife's piece ends. I have thought about trying to get her work at my firm, but it's not in her field. I truly can't say what lies ahead for her, or for me either. And now I have one more piece here, but I don't actually know the person who wrote this last one. This was sent to me by an acquaintance who claims that they know the author, but I am not certain that this individual even exists. Bear that in mind, because his or her claims here are rather extreme. I know everyone likes to pick on the advertising industry, but be forewarned that this next one goes to lengths I've never seen before. Still, I don't know anyone very well that works in that field, so I can't really say for sure about any of this. Maybe this was just written by someone who got fired by an advertising agency and has an axe to grind. I can't tell. With that caveat in place, I'd like to introduce this next little piece which alleges, without any hard evidence mind you, that werewolves are in the process of taking over advertising. If this is true, then I would expect to eventually find out at my work, but at this stage of the game, all I can do is conclude with this final opinion piece written supposedly by someone working in advertising in a major American city in the Midwest. And here is that piece now. I never thought being in the advertising industry would turn my life upside down the way it has. It all began innocently enough, with the usual long hours, stressful deadlines, and high-pressure pitches. But then a sinister twist came into the equation. A warped trend that seemed to be engulfing the industry. A situation that transformed me into something I never thought possible. A werewolf. It all started one fateful evening, during an extravagant client event. The air was filled with champagne bubbles and the clinking of flutes, as everyone celebrated the latest successful campaign launch. Amid all the revelry, I found myself cornered by my boss, Mr. Harrington, a man notorious for his charismatic yet slightly disturbing demeanor. His voice rose above the chatter, his words laced with an eerie confidence. You know, Richard, in this business, we must always strive for something unique, something that sets us apart from the crowd. I nodded hesitantly, sensing an unusual air of importance in his words. Yes, Mr. Harrington, but what exactly do you mean? A wicked grin crept across his face before he leaned in close, his voice dropping to a whisper. Werewolves, Richard. Have you ever considered the power of a werewolf in advertising? Honestly, my mind couldn't even fully process what he was saying. It seemed absurd, ludicrous even. But before I could dismiss it as the ramblings of an eccentric boss, he continued. Think about it, Richard. Werewolves symbolize unleashed potential, raw instinct, and an uncontrollable force. We need that edge in our campaigns. That's something the market has never seen before. I believe you have what it takes to embody that power. To physically embody that power. I took a step back, my heart pounding with uncertainty. Was this man serious? And more importantly, was I willing to enter into his weird game? It was as if there were an underlying threat, a hidden coercion, compelling me to accept his proposition. Against my better judgment, I found myself agreeing, making a pact with the advertising devil. From that point on, my life was no longer my own. I was necessitated to indulge in strange rituals, whispered incantations, and to consume bizarre concoctions that promised to awaken the beast within. Days turned into sleepless nights as I cycled through a roller coaster of emotions. Fear mixed with excitement, dread blended with anticipation. I became a pawn in Mr. Harrington's grand scheme, and my life began spiraling into a dark abyss. And then, one full moon night, it happened. The transformation. As the moon's ethereal glow bathed the office in an eerie light, I felt my bones crack, my muscles convulse. Agonizing pain surged through every inch of my body as fur erupted from my pores. Sharp claws tore through my fingertips. The metamorphosis was complete. I had become a werewolf. In the beginning, I fought to control the beast within, fearing the consequences of losing myself completely. But soon, I started to notice something peculiar. The presence of other werewolves within the industry, each succumbing to the same pressure, the same sinister manipulation. It seemed as if the advertising world had become infested with these creatures, with every agency striving to unveil their own werewolf brand ambassador. The once exclusive club of werewolves now grew, infiltrating every corner of the industry. As the trend escalated, I couldn't help but question the darkness that had enveloped my life. Who was benefiting from this bizarre phenomenon? And why were we being pressured into embracing an uncontrollable alter ego for the sake of advertising campaigns? The answers remained elusive, lost in the labyrinth of manipulation and compromise. But one thing became clear. I had to break free from this dreadful curse, this forced transformation. I had to reclaim my identity, my humanity. So now, as I find myself standing on the precipice of change, I gather the shattered remnants of my life, piecing them together with newfound strength. With each passing day, I inch closer to revealing the truth, to dismantling the twisted trends that have infiltrated my industry. But until then, I remain haunted by the howls of my fellow werewolves, their existence a dark reminder of the choices that we were unjustly forced to make. Beware the allure of advertising, for sometimes things which look beautiful from a distance can conceal a sinister darkness. We've gotten so many donations from Tiffany, it's like listening to a sweet polyphony. Please join us in thanking Tiffany Walsh, a name we don't thank enough around here, because she's been quite kind to us for quite some time. Tiffany is a member in good standing, no great standing, no awesome standing of our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. That means she gets to see secret uncensored dogman stories that the public doesn't get to see. If you would like to be as cool as Tiffany Walsh, then you might want to listen to what this next guy has to say. Hank?
Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/peterbernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button. Or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that when it cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.